Story time about El Cucaracho and the mysterious date. No, brother, sister, this story is strong, powerful, everything. I believe it's one of the strongest stories we've been sent, and there are things that, obviously due to guidelines and Facebook, have to be omitted. So, sister, enjoy the gossip on a disc, because that's not true. I don't think that happened. Enjoy the gossip since it's heard. Now, let's start. To provide context, I live with my mom and my sister. My sister is transgender, and well, yes, her little adjustments. True, she was a boy but became very empowered. Very here, you the cool sister. So, yes, basically, it was my sister, my mom, and me. Just my mom had divorced about 10 to 15 years ago, more or less from my dad, but we lived happily. 3 empowered women, 3 women on my path. And my sister dedicated herself to dating through an app. My mom knows that my sister is into this dating thing, so there's no problem, all in peace. One day, my sister and I were chatting in the living room, and she pulls out, grabbing a beer and going like, "You won't believe what happened with the boyfriend and the neighbor. Did you see that the other day? Doa Chui ended up with a victory, right?" And in the midst of that, my sister gets a message. It turned out to be a service request from the country of an artist. I don't know exactly. And well, my sister told me everything. We had a lot of communication, so she says to me, "Look, I got a date." And I'm like, "Oh," before, my sister had set her rates, saying, "I charge this much, which includes transport, place, whatever I can, and I already have decisions." And the guy is like, "Okay, I just wanted to tell you that I'm 48 years old, okay?" And my sister goes, "Don't worry, that's what I do. There's no problem." So they agreed to meet at a hotel, and my sister and I always communicated, so she would be safe and everything, but just to keep an eye on her. Then she gets another message, and the guy, El Cucaracho, tells my sister, "Hey, you know what? I have a fantasy I want to fulfill, so I'm going to bring you asking her to wear it, and my sister says, "Yes, but I charge a bit more for this kind of job." And the guy, without any problem, says, "Don't worry, I'll pay you." So, my sister went to the place they agreed to meet. Everything seemed fine, and then she calls me saying, "I think this guy stood me up because I asked for the room and there's nobody there. I don't know what's going on." And of course, it seemed like a standard no-show situation. "Don't worry," I tell her, "just give it a few minutes." And then, she calls me back. Guess what? He's there. He was just having some drinks at the hotel bar. So, I'm like, "Okay, perfect. God bless you, and have a great time so you can go shopping tomorrow." My life. Okay, sister, okay, sisters. Sit down because you're going to have a heart attack if you're not prepared for the shock. After a while, my sister calls me, and I was with my mom. My sister was crying, like, "Oh my God, something horrible happened. This guy, we imagined the worst." She couldn't speak on the phone. Everything felt very weird. "Mom, you know what?" He bailed on her. "It's my sister." Once she calmed down, she said, "He's arrived home. Something horrible happened. I don't know what." So, sister, she gets home and calls me. I'm scared to death not knowing what happened. He didn't pay me. What happened? Tell me. Who are we talking about, sister? She says, "No, I was entering the room. And guess who was there? My dad, his ex-husband, our dad, sister." So she ends up encountering our dad. And that's right. The dad was the one who requested the date. And you might say, "Oh, he didn't recognize her." No, sister, because remember the little adjustments she had made. And in the photo of the app, she doesn't appear. So, she says, "Well, when I opened the door, we just looked at each other." It's one of those times when you see someone and think, "Ah, I know you, but I don't know from where." And somehow, my dad, of course, coughed and recognized her well. She says to him, "Javier, is that you?" And my sister answers, "Is that you, Dad?" My sister then left there crying. What else could she do? My mom grabs the phone and calls my dad, asking him how it could be possible for him to request a date like this when he is already married, since my dad had remarried. And remember the fantasy about wanting her to wear clothes or whatever. Well, guess with whom this gentleman had that fantasy? With a relative of his wife. Obviously, my dad blocked us all, my sister and me, and we lost all communication with him because when we call, it says the number does not exist. We tried to reach out to the daughters of his wife, and nobody answers us. I was almost ready to go there, to be with little God, to be with the little one. I would like to say that this story is from a follower, but no, sister, it's mine. Of course, I'm like, no, well, it turns out that one day I went to have dinner with my grandma. So that day, there was a lot going on at my house, and I, in my car, listening to music, very comfortably. And then I come across a traffic light that was red. In front of me, there was an SUV, a big, fancy one, you know, the kind with white tinted windows. Then it turned green, and I'm not. That's the rule, ma'am. If you're watching this video, if it turns green, you don't just stay put and start honking, but the one in front. If they're slow to move, then I thought maybe they're distracted or something. So, what I did was honk at them, not like crazy. I swear it was just like this. Before I continue with this gossip, I remind you that I have a YouTube channel where I upload videos 3 times a week, so go subscribe. I'll leave it right here for you. Anyway, I'm telling you, I honked just to tell them, hey, it turned green, you've been sitting there for a while, right? The light was about to turn red again, thinking they should learn. Sister, I shouldn't have alerted them because the man, not a man, started throwing all the dirt with the back tire at my small car, messing with this guy. So, we both turned right, and he gets in my lane and starts to block my way, throwing all sorts of insults at me, and I'm trying to pass when it turned green, and the guy goes, you don't know who you're messing with, and I'm like, no, and I'm right here. But he started to push me with his car, push me. Well, the SUV, it started to cut me off, and all the people passing by in cars didn't do more than watch. Like, oh, and they even slowed down to see. So, I'm telling you, people always stop to watch the gossip, but nobody does anything. Then the guy, sister, he pulled out, I can't say it because they'll take it down, but here goes, a small gun. He pulled out a gun, and I'm already programming I was putting my faith in God, and I heard a woman's voice telling him to leave me alone. I was truly very scared. The guy wouldn't let me move forward. He kept cutting me off, and kept saying, you don't know who you've just messed with. Do you know who I am? The typical guys with their little bag of stones, wearing a cap and black sunglasses at 10 at night. And I was like, please, help me, just calm down. I mean, I just told you it turned green, but you don't know who you've just messed with. He kept saying all the time, you don't know me. And I'm like, I don't want to know, man, just let me pass. But he wouldn't let me. I started to get scared, and at that moment, I called my mom. So I was like, this is bad, because a guy was following me with a gun, and I even noted the plates, just in case someone needed to know, at least my mom would know who it was, or at least the car. Then, where we were, it was a 2-lane road, and this guy told me he was going into my lane, and then those 2 lanes were going to merge into one. So, I thought, if this guy doesn't let me pass, he's going to completely crash into me, or something's going to happen. I thought, this is it. This is where it ends for me. That was a long time ago. But still, it wasn't going to be over for me. Normal. And since many cars were coming, I couldn't pass him. So, he pulls up beside me with the gun and says, next time, be careful who you mess with, buddy. And then he says, God bless you, friend. And he left. That night, I cried for about 3 hours from fright. Really, the adrenaline at the moment didn't even let me cry or anything. But once I got home, I started to cry horribly. I called my mom, thinking to myself more than ever that this incident would change my life. So, I'm going to leave you with a moral. Don't honk like mad, whether you're upset or not, because you've seen what can happen. The reality of his words, you don't know who you're messing with, isn't about who I'm messing with specifically, but rather that there are indeed many crazy people out on the streets, and you don't know what kind of people you might encounter. So, be very careful when you're driving because you don't know who might be in front of you. It's not about who they are, but what they can do to you. I had no way out. I couldn't switch lanes because the other lane was going in the opposite direction, so there was no ugly way to change my route or escape. Plus, in that moment, when you think about nothing, you look for exits when I was about to get past this SUV by any means.